Ryan, and I want to go now to Shan Wu, former federal prosecutor, Abby Phillip, our senior political correspondent and anchor of Inside Politics Sunday, and Jonathan Martin, national political correspondent for the New York Times. Thanks to all. So, Shan, let me start with you. The committee goes through in this letter, right, lays out McCarthy's interactions with Trump in great detail, right? And they put it together, right, based off reports and interviews, but they lay out a very clear and compelling narrative of how central he is on the day of the insurrection, in the days before, in the days and months after. So how important is his testimony, in addition to all of this information that they have, to the committee, Shan?
Oh, I think it's really important. There's no substitute for the opportunity to talk to him live and have a conversation about this, have him answer questions about Trump's state of mind. And it's not just a state of mind on how he felt during the insurrection going on. It's how he might have felt before and after. And if some of the reports we're hearing are correct, that McCarthy, among others, was telling Trump, there is no path out of here. This claim that the election was improper is a lie. It's not going to work. That really goes to the possibility of Trump having the criminal intent to obstruct the congressional process and to possibly be part of this insurrection.
So, Jonathan, your reporting is cited in the letter, right? So in the letter, it says the committee is also interested in McCarthy's communications with the president after January 6th. So they quote, and they say, it appears that you may also have discussed with President Trump the potential that he would face a censure resolution, impeachment, or removal under the 25th Amendment. It also appears that you, referring to McCarthy, may have identified other possible options, including President Trump's immediate resignation from office. The footnote there points to an article that you wrote, where 3 Republican sources told you McCarthy asked other Republicans whether he should call on Trump to resign. A very significant thing.
Yeah.
How much does McCarthy know?
Well, he was in frequent contact with former President Trump, not just on January 6th they were in, but in the days immediately after January 6th. He talked to the president repeatedly, and I think he was trying to figure out what was at stake here. And I think in real time, he was trying to absorb the impact on a lot of levels of the Capitol riot and grappling with what to do. And I think, McCarthy was, I think, in some ways trying to find a way out with President Trump. And clearly, President Trump was not going to resign. That became, I think, evident pretty quickly. But I think those hours and days after January 6th, I think Kevin McCarthy, frankly, like a lot of people in the Republican caucus, were trying to grapple with how to approach this president who they had courted and stayed close with for 4 years. But now we're starting to wonder, is he going to be a real anchor on us politically going forward? And I think for a time, that was an open question. Now, as you pointed out, by the end of the month, he was down in Mar-a-Lago, and they were smoking a peace pipe down there, and we know the rest of the story since then. But those hours and days after are crucial.
Well, they're crucial because obviously in that moment, he thought what he thought. It was an attack. It was Trump's responsibility. He talked to, as you point out, multiple Republicans about whether he should tell Trump to resign, right? It wasn't that it was private and secret in his heart. He was sharing it. And Abby, in May, and this is after the visit to Mar-a-Lago when he went down to kiss the ring, McCarthy did tell Manu sure he'd be willing to testify about his conversations with Trump. Of course, he did so in a really dismissive way and referring to an outside commission, which McCarthy then subsequently blocked from actually forming. So here's what McCarthy has said about the bipartisan committee that ended up forming. Here he is.
I think it's very clear to the American public. This is a sham.
Now, Abby, I feel like I have to emphasize, Republicans I've talked to who have appeared before that committee say the exact opposite, right? They say that it's fair and smart and well-researched and substantive. But when it comes to McCarthy, Abby, is there any chance he talks to the committee willingly?
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely. I mean, you'll probably see him statement that basically says, I've got nothing for you. And you heard, Ryan Noble's talking about that as well, because they know that even though that is effectively sort of defying the subpoena, the enforcement mechanism is a lot less clear for the committee, whether or not they can or would be willing to pursue this even further down the road. So he could simply try to say, well, everything that you need to know is out there in the public domain. That's obviously not going to satisfy the committee, but it might stall it enough that he doesn't actually have to provide information and faces very few consequences. What you're seeing with McCarthy is like with a lot of other Republican allies at that time on the day of January 6th and afterwards, they were panicked. They believed that this was catastrophic for President Trump, but that all changed as the days and weeks went on, and they realized that Trump's base did not, in fact, abandon him after January 6th. So he is going to really struggle, if he does ever come before the committee, to explain the discrepancy between his thinking on January 6th and what came after. The answer for the discrepancy, obviously, as we all know, is politics.
So, Shan, the committee does go
I'd be
through
surprised,
in this.
Aaron,
Go ahead,
if
John.
he does cooperate.
You
No,
would be
I was going to say, I'd be very surprised if McCarthy cooperates at any level, especially given the fact that Jim Jordan has made very clear. Jim Jordan, of course, is the hardline Trump ally from Ohio. Jordan has made clear he's not going to cooperate. Now, if McCarthy was to say that he would cooperate at any level and create daylight between himself and Jordan, that would be duly noted by one Donald J. Trump of Palm Beach, Florida. And I think that would create real challenges for Kevin McCarthy if he was to be in line for the speakership this time next year, because his big impediment to being speaker could be Donald Trump and Jim Jordan. So I think for that reason alone, McCarthy is unlikely to cooperate with this.
So Shan, one other point here, there's a question about, obviously McCarthy voted right to not certify the election. And that vote did not happen until after the insurrection, right? Because the insurrection paused it, right? Didn't happen until that night. So the committee says they want to know whether Trump's team talked to McCarthy between the insurrection and the vote. They say your public statements regarding January 6th have changed markedly since you met with Trump. At that meeting or at any other time, did President Trump or his representatives discuss or suggest what you should say publicly during the impeachment trial if called as a witness or in any later investigation about your conversations with him on January 6th? So referring to the vote and also obviously to the trial that came after, anything else, was there coaching? So do you think it's possible that there was coaching? And if so, what's the significance legally?
Oh, I have no doubt there was coaching. The significance legally, arguably it's a kind of an obstruction issue. I mean, the impeachment wasn't a court trial, but that kind of coaching really, again, reveals what's really going on with what Trump's trying to do then. If he's telling him, say these things because we can still stop the election results, that really is part of a conspiracy to obstruct Congress and to have this insurrection. And going to the point that Ryan made about the enforcement issue, it is hard for Congress to take the step for them to enforce it against them because it's kind of unprecedented. And I think the real question is going to be the 800-pound gorilla in the room is where is the Justice Department on this? Because they would have methods of enforcement, particularly if they issued grand jury subpoenas.
All right. Shan, Abby, Jonathan, thank you all very much. And next, it is